Gin does games!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gin here with another League of Legends champion guide for you. Have you ever wanted to pretend to be Godzilla, stomping around like a T-Rex and devouring your enemies whole? Then Cho'Gath, the Terror of the Void, is the champion for you. He is the stuff of nightmares, a creature of the void, the space between dimensions. He is here to eat your world and plunge it into darkness. If that sounds like fun, let's learn how to Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath is a big, stompy, ability power-based tank. He brings to the field a suite of crowd control, massive sustain, a true damage nuke, and his own sheer size. He is primarily played in the jungle or soloing the top lane, though he can just as easily fill in the middle or even support if you so choose. He is very flexible and can be built as a full tank, a full mage, or anywhere in between. Cho'Gath's passive is Carnivore. Every time he kills a unit, any unit at all, be it minion, monster, or champion, he recovers a small amount of health and mana that scales with his level. You know that feast mastery in the offense tree? It's like that, but way better. Throughout the laning phase and all through clearing the jungle, this passive will keep Cho'Gath healthy and sustained, making him a particularly ideal choice to use in a 2v1 lane. Cho's Q is Rupture, and does pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. He stomps his foot, claw thing, causing the ground at a target location to rumble for about half a second. Once this warning is given, spikes erupt from that spot, dealing magic damage and knocking up all enemies in the area. Once they come back down, they're slowed for about 1.5 seconds, and who wouldn't be after getting tossed in the air by spikes, and be at least a little shaken. Rupture is Cho'Gath's primary tool of engagement and disruption. You can use tenacity to shorten a stun or a slow, but a knockup doesn't work. Consequently, what with the short delay on its activation, Rupture can often be difficult to hit. When you do though, it crushes fools. Rupture is also his highest damaging normal spell, with a full 1-to-1 AP ratio. You will always take a point in it early, and as a support, you will take it first. However, upon leveling, the only thing that changes is its damage, not its cooldown or its slow or anything else. Thus, you will usually max it out last as a full tank, or second as a mage. Take your pick. For W, Cho'Gath sports a feral scream. Just as one might expect of a terror from the art of H.R. Giger, our alien friend lets out a deafening roar, dealing magic damage and silencing all enemies in a 60-degree cone in front of him. Unlike Rupture, both the damage and the silence's duration are increased on level. It's also much easier to hit, making it a more common choice to max out second, or first if you're a full mage. Are you getting the theme of area magic damage yet? If you weren't already, the E here might push you over. Vorpal Spikes is a passive, toggleable ability. When toggled on, his basic attacks also cause him to launch spikes out of his body, dealing magic damage to enemies in a line in front of him. This is Cho'Gath's bread and butter damage ability. There is no cost to having Vorpal Spikes turned on, so generally this is just an added bonus. The only times you might want to turn this off are to avoid taking a kill or a buff from an ally, or maybe if you want to let the enemy push your lane a bit. The damage scales with your ability power as well, making it strong regardless of your build. It helps you clear waves and clear the jungle with insane speed. Generally, max this one out first. However, if you're playing support, you might consider maxing out Feral Scream instead, at least until the laning phase is over. Don't want to accidentally take all your marksman's farm. The width of Vorpal Spikes, and therefore the number of enemies you can hit, will increase based on his size, so things like Lulu's Wild Growth will make this more powerful. But what else can do this small, niche effect? Well, it's time to talk about our ultimate and tie this kit together. When you press R, the Terror of the Void will feast upon his puny opponents, devouring them. It's a melee range spell, of course. I mean, who can eat people at a distance? When you do, the target is dealt true damage. That is to say, the damage dealt is unaffected by armor or magic resistance. You always know exactly how much damage it will deal. The damage also scales with ability power. If Cho'Gath kills a unit with Feast, be it a minion, monster, or champion, he gains a Feast stack, growing larger, increasing his health, and his attack range up to a maximum of 6 times. Should Cho'Gath ever die, he loses half his stacks rounded up. Additionally, Feast deals a lot more damage to minions and monsters, a flat 1000 damage in addition to the AP ratio. That's as strong as Smite at level 18. Combine this all with its short minute-long cooldown, and Feast is great for securing all kinds of objectives. Don't be afraid to use this on non-champions before you have 6 stacks. In fact, I encourage you to. A fed Cho'Gath is a scary Cho'Gath. His stacks are where most of his tankiness comes from. While without them, his base health pool is about average for most champions. With full stacks at level 18, he absolutely towers over the competition, with about 500 health over the next closest champion. Obviously, take a point in Feast every chance you can. For this terrifying monster's runes, I recommend attack speed marks, flat armor seals, magic resistance per level glyphs, and movement speed quintessences when going for a full tank build, especially in the jungle. The attack speed helps him clear the jungle faster and works wonders with his Vorpal spikes. The movement speed quints are really strong on Cho'Gath because he has no speed boosts or movement related abilities of his own. The only slow he has is attached to Rupture, so simply keeping up is very important. For a more mage-focused build, consider trading your marks and glyphs out for ability power, giving you some additional early game punch. Cho'Gath is very flexible with his Masteries as well, able to run with pretty much anything and be effective. Typically, however, I tend to run 0-9-21. This provides a bit of extra tankiness, a lot of lovely utility, and, most importantly, gives him a massive speed boost. Damage and survivability, I find, will generally be available plentifully in the items you build. If you do need the extra tankiness though, the defense tree is quite strong right now, and a 0-21-9 build would be just as great. The Void Terror has a good number of options for summoner spells too. Flash is important, I feel, particularly as he has no other gap closers, as we mentioned. Smite is great for jungling, and combined with Feast, allows for greater objective control than even a max level Nunu can provide. Teleport is powerful for surprise ganks and protecting your base, and while Ghost does much the same, it also helps him stay on his targets or to keep his allies safe. Exhaust is particularly good for a Cho'Gath looking to support, offering a bit more reliable crowd control and may help you land a Rupture for a chain of CC. Lastly, Ignite is quite good on a mage Cho'Gath, helping him nuke down his targets with ease. Now, when playing Cho'Gath, you will usually build him either as a full tank or a full mage, or perhaps somewhere in between depending on the situation. Mage builds are strong if you get ahead early and want to stay ahead, while tank is just strong in general. I'll simply list these sections separately however I can, and let you mix and match at your leisure. When jungling, your best start is of course to grab a hunter's machete. If you're in a lane, depending on your matchup, you might instead start with a Boots of Speed, cloth armor, a crystalline flask, a Doran shield, or a Doran's ring. That's a lot of options I know, but like I've said, he's diverse. Back in the jungle though, you will want to finish that machete and turn it into a Spirit of the Ancient Golem as quickly as possible. That item is ridiculously strong on him and in general. If you do get the spirit, follow that up with Ninja Tabi. Otherwise, Mercury Treads are your shoes of choice. Just have something with tenacity. Locket of the Iron Solari is an all-around great defensive option to follow with. As you're going to be super tanky, that aura will last quite a while to help your allies out. For armor, consider either Frozen Heart or Randuin's Omen. Frozen Heart is generally stronger for Cho'Gath as the extra mana and cooldown reduction help him out considerably. However, if you find the enemies are focusing you down in a teamfight, grab Randuin's Omen instead. Sunfire Cape, too, is just a powerful choice in general, especially as you'll constantly be in the middle of the fight. Spirit Visage is super strong versus heavy mage teams, and the healing passive combos well with your own. Abyssal Scepter is similarly powerful, and a great choice in an AP build as well. Warmog's armor, of course, stacks even more health on our behemoth, and lastly, Guardian Angel synergizes really well with him. Since it works on a percentage of his maximum health, it will generally return quite a lot and help him keep those feast stacks high. Lastly, as a tank, you may want to consider getting yourself one item for damage. In this case, attack speed is the way to go. Wit's End buffs his own magic resistance and synergizes with all of his abilities, but especially with Vorpal spikes. Gnasher's Tooth is also a great option, more so if you're going for a mage-like build than a tank. Speaking of mages, the first major item you want to rush for as AP Cho'Gath is Rod of Ages. Combine that Valor's Reward passive with your own, and Cho'Gath will basically never have to leave the lane unless he feels like it. Rabadon's Death Cap is, of course, the quintessential mage item, blasting the power of your spells through the roof. Rylai's Crystal Scepter will add slows to all of your spells, not just Rupture, and of course, make you tankier to boot. Lastly there, consider Zhonya's Hourglass for the invincibility and to become the biggest, shiniest statue in the league, and Liandry's Torment for some health and penetration. Oh, and finally, if you're playing support Cho'Gath, you'll want to pick up Relic Shield first, which will become Face of the Mountain, and of course a Sightstone. Both of these give health, and the active ability of Face of the Mountain is extremely powerful on Cho'Gath. More than most other tanks, Cho'Gath excels at body blocking as a form of tanking. As big as a fully fed Cho'Gath is, he can basically stand on top of his allies and make them nigh impossible to target. Combine this with the suite of Feral Scream and Rupture, and Cho'Gath makes a formidable foe. As we've said before, Rupture can be quite difficult to hit. Never try to use it at maximum range, as that pretty much spells out failure. Do your best to make sure your target is centered in the blast zone, or better yet, use it as they are walking into it. If they have nowhere else to go, it will surely land. Try, if you can, to wait until all their escapes are used before you Rupture, so that they don't just flash over it. Feast is a very powerful and very important spell for Cho'Gath. True damage is nothing to scoff at, and it's on a very short cooldown. Furthermore, those stacks are extremely important in making him survivable and a worthwhile choice. To that end, as I said, use the spell as often as you can to max out your stacks up until 6. To help out, Riot has added a handy little indicator that will appear around enemy champions. If they are low enough to be devoured whole by Feast, a red circle with teeth will appear under their feet that only Cho'Gath can see. Use this to know who you can instantly kill. If you have your stacks maxed out, save it for team fights or for taking objectives. In a team fight, don't worry about using it to get the last hit in. Get the maximum amount of damage you can with it. Bring their carry low as quick as you can. Combine this with Smite, and at level 18, you can do a quick 2000 plus damage to Baron a Dragon. If you choose to do this, Feast before you Smite, as Feast requires a very brief channel time before it hits, whereas Smite is instantaneous. Cho'Gath is a massive, monstrous tank. Land those Ruptures and keep your Feast stacks high, and you will lead your team to victory. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you've enjoyed this guide, please let me know by hitting the like button. Speak up in the comments below if you have advice or questions. We're all here to learn. Subscribe for future content, including champion guides, gameplay guides, and other possibly not LOL content. Follow me on Twitch for streams and Twitter and Facebook to see what else is going on. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. Now, go feast upon your foes and ask yourself,
who will be eaten first? Creeping in the jungle, looking for a midnight snack. I was getting famine, following these tracks, but I can't resist the scent of your dull flesh. I'm sure that once I feast on it, I will feel refreshed.